I've owned the Pentax X7 for a few months now, and overall I've been pretty satisfied with it, but there are a few caveats when it comes to shooting 6x7 film. So I'll take you along on a small Sunday trip where I shot a roll of Portra 160 with the Pentax, and at the end of the video I'll give you my overall opinion on shooting with this system. I'll go through some of the pros and cons, including a few things that I don't think are usually mentioned here on YouTube. This was a trip with a clear arriving point, but otherwise open to anything that would strike me as remotely interesting. And the first shot was the kind of scene I would say I always feel I have to shoot. A lot of these household items feel like they are frozen in the 90s. It's a huge pile of yesterday. A little later, still on the road, I found another scene that felt worth shooting on 6x7. A small, slightly quirky ceramic shop and atelier. Back on the road, after spotting what looked like an old van floating on water, I pulled over and checked out another location. This place was a natural area with a small water park, a restaurant and a bar. And it felt worth taking a little Spaziergang through the park, also hoping I would find something else to photograph, which in the end I did. So I suspect this might feel a little bit simple, a little bit empty, but I really like the texture on this imbis stand. And I also like the fact that it's placed here in this natural environment, which creates a nice contrast. Let's see. So eventually the weather started to clear up and the sunlight suddenly felt really nice. And I think that's what motivated me to take the next shot. I definitely got carried away by the sunlight here. I liked the contrast the light created on those branches, and also how the metal frame was kind of wrapped inside them. Anyway, bus stops around here are surprisingly diverse. They change from village to village, from town to town, and honestly, it could probably become its own typology project. After a rather long unexpected stop on the road, I finally drove through to the location and got to enjoy the sight of another power plant on the horizon. After what turned out to be a 2.5-hour drive and already 4 shots down on my roll of Portra 160, I finally got the chance to go for a walk in the park. The park I was visiting that day was actually built on what used to be a mining site and turned into a big landscape garden filled with massive glacial boulders arranged into paths, hills, and themed areas. And the stones were brought in from elsewhere and placed to recreate a natural Ice Age style landscape. This was more the kind of image I had in mind when I decided to drive out here. Nice colors and a real spring feeling to it. There were also a few other things scattered around the park that I had to take a closer look at, and I couldn't resist shooting this Imbis stand as well. I love the compression you get from shooting 6x7. Even at f5.6, there's this really smooth transition from sharp to out of focus areas. I also really like that splash of red and yellow against the calm blue of the sky and the greens of the grass and trees. The next photos I'm about to show you were only possible because there was an ongoing light installation in the park with a show planned for later that evening. And I found the objects and the overall theme actually fit the park quite well, especially considering it's meant to recreate an Ice Age landscape. Some of the scenes felt almost surreal, and I think that was the mindset I was in when I decided to shoot the next 3 frames. I'm honestly quite disappointed with this one. It worked in the moment, but not as a photograph. I saw the landscape with the power plant, the sunset sky with all those magenta, purple and blue tones, the reflection on the water and these floating geometric elements that were very strongly lit. I made 2 frames as the light changed quickly while the sun was going down, but there weren't really any major differences between them. So those were the 10 shots. I even loaded a fresh roll of Portra 160 just in case I would find something else worth photographing, but it wasn't meant to be. And after the last frame, I just stayed a bit longer and enjoyed the atmosphere. So I went back home with a feeling that I might have captured something, but probably nothing too exciting that day. And honestly, that feeling didn't really change even after seeing the scans. So let's get into it, and I will start with the pros of using this system. Of course, the image quality out of a 6x7 negative is excellent. Plenty resolution, beautiful smooth tonality and gradations, and that medium format compression look. And the optical performance of the lenses made for this system is top tier. The handling is also great. It's an SLR design that makes you want to pick it up and shoot. It's heavy, but in a good way. It feels solid, robust, and trustworthy. And the built-in light meter is a really good addition as well. Furthermore, the camera will likely remain serviceable in the long run since most of its electronics are very simple and easy to replace. Now, the cons. It handles well, but it's huge and takes up a lot of space in a bag. It's an SLR, but in practice you might find yourself needing a tripod because with medium format you're frequently working at smaller apertures, especially for landscapes. Handheld shooting, documentary style shooting fits very well this system if there is enough light. But since you cannot change film mid-roll to adjust for the light, it might struggle in dark environments. And the reason is vibration, which is the next caveat here. At shutter speeds between 1/30th and 1/4 of a second, the chances of internal vibration are high, even with mirror lockup activated. In my style of shooting and in the German weather, I often end up in that shutter speed range, and that's a real downside. It's actually the main thing that's made me consider selling the camera in favor of something like a Mamiya RB67, where leaf shutter lenses make vibration a non-issue. I mean, there are ways around it to prevent that vibration to creep into your images, but it needs discipline and a bit of luck as well. The other annoying issue is viewfinder coverage. With the Prism viewfinder, coverage is only around 85 to 90%, which leaves quite a bit out, and you often end up cropping in post just to match what you thought you were framing. If you want precise composition, you really need a waist level finder, which goes for around 300 euros on eBay, but then you lose eye-level shooting and built-in metering. And finally, not particular to this system but to all 6.7 systems, you only get 10 frames per roll. This camera is designed as an SLR for more casual shooting, but it doesn't really feel casual, and that is because every frame costs you money, which might push you into very deliberate shooting, which can be good, but it can also lead to overthinking and creating safer, more boring images. So in the end, does shooting 6x7 and this system in particular influence the results compared to, say, digital or 35mm? Yes, it absolutely does. I mean, how could it not when you're working with a 40-year-old camera that weighs around 2.5 kilos, shoots only 10 frames per roll, and forces you to make all sorts of compromises? Of course, it affects the way you shoot and the results you get. That said, I'm keeping it, and I will continue shooting with it because I really enjoy using it and I see it as a very good system for a particular type of project. But that's it. This is a camera that asks you to adapt to it. It's not a do-it-all system. It needs to match your subject and your way of working. And if that alignment is there, then it's an incredible tool that is capable of giving you beautiful images. Anyway, that was it. Thanks for following along on this little trip. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, consider subscribing for more content like this. I hope to see you soon. Bye.